Welcome, Rich Maloney here, the founder and CEO of Quality Mind Global. I'm going to share a model with you today that we use in, I think it's week 5 of our coaching sessions, depending on what program our clients buy into. But most importantly, this is all about how to create a high-performing mind and lifestyle and life that includes better relationships, better health, uh, less anxiety, if not pretty much putting a stop on anxiety altogether when you understand this model, and just generally becoming the best version of yourself. And so it's called the 5 universal laws. And whether you're a corporate, a change maker, a business leader, a mum and dad, a young adolescent, or an elite athlete, this works for everyone if you implement the model. And quite simply, when I was going through my difficult times, and there was a lot of difficult times starting my first company, which I built and sold, and then just going through everyday life with the tools that I had at the time weren't that great. I wasn't taught in schools how to think, how to get the best out of myself, how to manage my emotions. In fact, I got kicked out of a couple of schools on my journey. So everything I teach here is really it's reverse engineering myself, figuring out why I blew up my elite sporting career, why have I ruined relationships in the past, why have I found myself financially broke, why have I found myself generally unhappy. And this model here, the 5 universal laws, really is a powerful model. It's so simple yet so powerful, and it's a great model you can use with your clients if you're a coach, or in everyday life, depending on who you are, where you're at. And so when used well and used every day, you have full control of your reality. Your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. And so managing your inner world is critically important for you to become the best version of you. And it just depends on how important you take you. Because quite simply, I'm 50 years old, 3 beautiful daughters, living on the Bayside in Melbourne. My life's pretty good, but I still have things I've got to manage. And when I really take this on board, and we use technology now to bring this to our reality through our clients and our coaches across the world to remind us of this model and many other models that we use. And so it really comes down to our thinking. So we have roughly 70,000 thoughts a day. Now, that's a lot of thoughts, right? 95% of our thoughts are really simply regurgitated from yesterday through to today. So you're rinsing and repeating the majority of your thoughts from yesterday, the day before, last week. And so with this model, it will put a stop to that. And you want to put a stop to that because where your thinking goes, your life flows. And if life isn't really at capacity, working for you at a high level, high performing level, then consider this model. Now, the first law, quite simply, is the law of control. The law of control. So, what's a universal law to start with? A universal law is a non-negotiable, right? A non-negotiable. So it's like the law of gravity, right? It's here. It's here to stay. Unless you go to a simulation, we're in a controlled environment, then you can obviously play with that law. But generally speaking, it's here to stay. So the law of control, number one, is you are in full control of your thoughts. Full control. People think that their thoughts are in control of them, and they usually are. So my favorite statement to my clients in the morning is make sure you get ahead of your thoughts in the morning. Okay, get ahead of your thoughts. And so that means you wake up in the morning, you understand that your body has been woken up, is automatically in replay from yesterday, usually because of the testosterone running through the bloodstream, which is the stress hormone to wake you up, right? So you wake up out of bed, in comes the repeat from yesterday. And then in comes the uncertainty, the worry, the concerns, and so forth. And then if you don't take control of that, it will take control of you. Think of the mornings when you get up out of bed and you think, oh God, what have I got to worry about today? I hope my finance are okay. I hope I do well today. I hope whatever it may be. There's a montage of thoughts that run through our head and we feel our thoughts. So let's go. The law of control. Now, there's a prelude to this. What happens is the thought comes into your head. Okay, that thought is usually triggered by a concern, a worry, a future. If it's usually negative, if it's a positive thought, great, control that and maintain that. But if it's a negative thought, you're depleting your energy cycles, right? So you're really running out of juice from the minute you wake up, and so that thought will come out pretty quickly in a nanosecond, and it's usually a trigger from something. So the thing is, you are in full control of that thought. So you can then get that thought and then stop it. Okay, so that's called the law of control. You are in full control of your thoughts. All right, number one rule, where most people think that their thoughts are just their own thoughts and they just run through their head throughout the day and they don't take any control. Wrong. You are in full control of your thoughts, at least the second thought, because the thought will come up from a trigger. That is the law of change, right? So you are in full control of your thoughts. Number one. Number two, you're in full control of what you do with that thought. So the law of change. And so what are you going to do with that? So people just think that one thought is going to maintain. It doesn't need to. It shouldn't, because our thoughts are usually controlling, right? We're actually wired to fear, wired to worry, wired to be concerned. Why is that? Because we live in a life of uncertainty, whether you like it or not. The more you start loving uncertainty, the happier your life will be. And why is that? Because we don't even know why we're here, majority of us. We haven't researched enough into our soul blueprint and pattern to figure out why we're here. So we're just going through life, anxious, worried, trying to keep up, trying to grab everything we can, because that helps us control by taking things on board and controlling. That's where the relationships, finances, whatever. There's just every aspect of control. So you're in full control of your thoughts. Then you're in full change of your thoughts, right? So you can change those thoughts, but most people don't. What do you change it to? Well, I say opposite the thought. So if a thought comes in is, I hope I do well today, or I hope they return my emails, the opposite, I hope they return my emails, is, I love uncertainty, life flows to me, everything's going to be okay. I'm in full control of my reality. Whatever it is, the thought is, change it and go to the opposite. Just go to the opposite. And then put that into your mind and just bang it home until you feel that change. Okay. The next universal law is the law of connection. So that's the law of connection. And what that means is we have an inner world and we have an outer world. Okay. So an inner world and an outer world. So what the connection between the two. So yes, they're separate. The inner world, excuse me, good catch. The inner world is different, is not connected to our outer world. So outside my eyeballs, there's an outer world. Inside my eyeballs, there's an inner world, right? They're connected, but they're separate. And so what I see out here, right, is purely a decision to label it, right? So what I'm trying to say here is you can go through life and just watch the world unfold around you. And this is mastery, by the way, and basically pretending that you're eating popcorn at the movies and seeing a big screen. And then just seeing the world play in front of you like a movie, right? The reason I give you the example, because they're separate, but they're connected, right? The law of connection. So what's happening in your inner world is a reflection in your outer world. You are the projector, boom, out into the big screen. All right. So you don't have to get connected out here because it is the world we live in. But if you've got 1,000 things to do on your to-do list today, if you are worried and uncertain, if you're angry, you're more likely to find it in your outer world. So in other words, your life flows where your thinking goes, and that's the projection, that's the theater. And so the law of connection is, if you're out of control in here, you're out of control, your outer world will be out of control, right? So it's going to reflect for you, because in the matrix that we live in, everything's a projection of our thoughts. So when you control your thought, then you change your thought, and understanding that if you don't change or you do change, it's still going to be a projection in your outer world. And so understanding this allows you to go, I've really got to control it. I've really got to change it. And let's start seeing what happens in my outer world. Hope that makes sense. Right. Then the fourth law is what gets bandied around a lot these days in this world we live in, is the law of attraction. Okay, the law of attraction. The law of attraction, quite simply, is what you think is what you get. So if you put enough energy on your inner world to say, I'm peaceful, I'm harmonious, I love life, only good relationships come to me, I'm happy, I love uncertainty, money always flows to me, money always flows to me, everything always works out to me. This is the law of control, the law of change, understanding the law of connection, and understanding that you're going to attract that. But really, it's not all. Attraction is one thing. The law of attraction. It's probably the most powerful universal law, which most people don't understand. Is they just go through life, not controlling their thoughts, not changing their thoughts, letting the same thought dictate their reality, and then what happens is their outer world that's connected to their inner world will reflect that in the law of attraction. If you really want to own the law of attraction, it's actually the law of resonance. So the law of resonance is how you're feeling, right, will reflect in your outer world as opposed to how you're thinking. So thoughts create feelings. Okay, watch another previous video of mine called The 6 Stages of Mindful Alignment. You'll understand what I'm saying there. And so when you understand the law of attraction, and because we live in this third world dimensional density, it takes some time for our thoughts to manifest. It takes some time for our reality to turn into the reality of our dreams because it's a very dense environment we live in. Just look at the body. It's very dense. It takes time to heal. But in higher understandings and dimensional frequencies, this happens very quickly. Okay, so if you study other dimensions, thoughts basically transfer instantly. That's another discussion for another day. So bringing this back down to human earth is the law of attraction. What you think is what you get. So are you attracting the reality you want? Are you attracting the partner you want? Are you attracting the lifestyle you're after? Are you attracting the people around you that you want? Finances around you want? Or are you constantly out of control, not changing your reality? Your outer world is a reflection of your crazy inner world, and then you're seeing it in the law of attraction. So this is what you've got to be careful here, because when you really start going down this track, whether you like it or not, you're going to attract it because you don't get a choice. All the universe does is says, yes, this is the stage. This human life is the stage to experience and express ourselves as unique and individual rays of intelligence going through this human individual experience on a collective level. And all the information goes straight back to the greater good of consciousness, whatever you want to call your higher power, for really understanding and experiencing the greater collective in the movement we are in today of 2025. Because there's been multiple hundreds of years gone past with people coming and going, but it's a collection of intelligence going back to the greater source, going deep, bringing me back to life. Right. And so the law of attraction, the law of connection. Hope you understand that. At least lean into it. Then we got number 5. Is thoughts are powerful forces. Okay, thoughts are powerful forces. Okay, and so basically, we are here to create. Everyone is here to create. This is a creator's playbook. This is the environment. This is the stage of creation. Everything that I'm wearing, technology behind this series, everything, the city buildings, the planes we fly on, it all started with a thought. It all started with a dream. It all started with a passion. It all started with a burning desire to go down that track as an individual expert in that area, creating even the markers I'm using. And so thoughts are powerful forces. So what does that mean? Absolutely understand all thoughts create, all thoughts manifest, all thoughts become your reality. I'll give you an example. When I was a young man, getting kicked out of a couple of schools, lots of stupidity as a child in some gangs and whatever, growing up, and then really going through hard times. There's a lot of times I was very angry, being a Irish blooded young Aussie boy. The environment was pretty crisp at times where you needed to defend yourself and so forth. But what I was realizing when I got mentoring at about 23 years old, and this is when my journey began really, I had an awakening of some description. I wanted to really reverse engineer why my life was in such a turmoil, is because one of the key teachings from the mentor I had back then, who was in his 70s, he said, you are reflecting, you are putting out there the anger that you're receiving back. And so instead of going to pubs and out there in environments and getting myself in a bit of trouble, it just happened around me at school days and so forth. I then reverse engineered my head by taking control of the thought that would come in. I need to protect myself. I need to be aggressive. I need to have my ego in measure or out of control. I would change it. Then I would not let my inner world impact my outer world. So I would change my inner world. Then my outer world started to reflect this. And then I started to see a whole new life happen. So my whole world changed. I didn't attract that energy anymore. I didn't attract the environment where I was having to put myself in a position where it was the old rich. You know, the old rich was that wild, aggressive, silly, stupid decisions, reactionary type environment. And then what I started to realize is my thoughts are powerful thought forces. And so once I nailed that, then I started to take action on all my decision making, whether where I played sport that way, whether I treated my friends like that, or just every day waking up in bed and going back to bed at the end of the night. I understood that thoughts are powerful forces, and I started to see a significant shift in my life. Things were calmer. I was getting ready for things to come into my life as the law of attraction, and all of a sudden, wham! I'd start thinking about the type of car I wanted, and I wanted it for free, and these sorts of things happened to me. So I started to really trust on the universal teachings that I was being taught, and then I refined it, made it easy to understand for myself, and taught my friends and all my clients, and they are seeing the same thing. And so if you understand the 5 universal laws, it can really take control of your daily existence. Now, this is one of our many models that we teach our clients, and we have many coaches around the world offering this as a part of their suite. So if you're interested in learning more about this program, this model, and many other things that we've got on offer, have a look at the masterclass below, and you'll get access to a short video there that will dictate exactly more about what we're up to. But at its core, if you want to become the best version of you as a coach, if you want to become the best version of you as a business leader, you need to work on you. You need to work on your identity and understanding that you are in full control from the minute you get up. Then you can change how you want to be instantly. You don't need an awakening to happen like me as such. Then you can understand how these changes very quickly in your outer world through the law of attraction, but understanding fully well, most importantly, is every thought is a powerful force. Hope you enjoyed it.